Alrighty, what's going on, guys? It's your favorite mortgage lender, Abdel Khawatmi. I have with us a very, very special guest who just had fun for the last 10 minutes watching me run up and down the stairs and put crap together, which was pretty fun. Matt, you enjoyed that, right?
I did. I mean, it was my entertainment for today. I have a secret bloopers reel about you, and your daughter's yelling at you in the background.
It was funny. I think I mentioned I bought that GoPro,
Yeah.
and I'm trying for the longest to get it to freaking work. And for some damn reason, you saw it had that echo in the
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
So you certainly can't win it all. But I appreciate you jumping on. I appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, this is a long time coming that I feel like we've always ran into each other and we ran into the same circles. And I just truly think we never had the opportunity to finally get things in stones and get things going, right?
Yeah.
So, Matt, you want to kind of introduce yourself to some of the people that we have on here?
Yeah.
And take it from there?
For those that don't know me, my name is Matt Merenoff, and I run a company called Real Estate Recovery Group. I've been handling short sales since 2005. I went nationwide 2015 to help people in other markets. I felt like there was a massive need, and I know everybody's like short sales. What are you talking about? Well, I've been pretty busy for the last almost 19 years doing short sales. So a lot of people might not know me in the industry, but you're going to see a lot more of me. I don't know, and if you don't follow me on social media, you probably should. On Instagram, I go by the handle Short Sales Savage. Again, it's Short Sales Savage on Instagram. I know the younger folk likes to use that. But for me, yeah, I actually ran a for sale by owner service for many years, and towards the end of 2004, I saw what was going on in the market. A lot of people were put into wacky loans, the tickler loans, as I call it, the one percenters, and it was making homeownership virtually possible for anybody who had a heartbeat. You could work at Dunkin' Donuts making like $10 an hour, and as long
Yeah.
as you had a high credit score, you could go out and try to get 19,000 FHA loans or whatever it was. I mean, it was crazy. So, you know, towards the end of 2004, I was getting phone calls from people running that for sale by owner service. We were out there. We had these signs out there with 800 numbers, extensions, and talking about the properties, and it had financing on the signs. And it really was a great motivator for people to get out there, try to figure out how to buy properties with as little as $500 out of pocket.
Sure.
What I soon learned is that towards the end of that, people that were purchasing those loans, the one percenters, obviously the rates started to move up. A lot of those loans were maturing, and they didn't know what to do. I was getting phone calls from homeowners. Wives were calling me saying, "Hey, can you get home before my husband gets here?" And I'm like, well, "What's going on?"
Uh-oh.
I know I got a sexy voice, but what's going on? And then same with the husband, and I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm throwing out that vibe. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just not for me.
Sure.
And what it was is the spouses were lying to each other and paying differences of the mortgage payments on credit advances off their credit cards. So it was crazy where one spouse didn't know what was going on behind the scene with the financials, or people were, trying to use their corporate cards from work. People were losing their jobs. It was a wild time back then. And I felt like, how do I become part of the solution? So I actually took one of those classes where you could buy a property with, little as $10 out of pocket, and you were buying the rights to the house, but you weren't taking over, the mortgage.
Yep.
Weekend, Monday, pot up for my first deal. The guy who was running the event liked my personality, knew that I had come from a mortgage background, even though I never wrote a mortgage, but I was good at marketing. And then I had a collection experience, but I was horrible at it because I felt bad for people, but I knew how to find people. He's like, "You're the perfect fit. I don't want you to work for me. I want you to work with me." And we built a dynasty, up to like about 2000, 2005, all the way up to like 2008 or so. And then I left that environment and I went on my own. and I went dark for a couple of years because I want to really understand the inner works behind the scenes with asset managers. And all I was training people along that time, it was
Sure.
great to get the additional training from the asset side and really forge a relationship with people. So it was really exciting. And obviously things happen along the way, but I was always busy in the industry. And then here we are, 2014, still going strong, built a really great name for myself. 2015, as I said, nationwide. So, I'm like Father Time when it comes to short sales, but I love it. And I love being able to help other people. And I hope what I'm providing tonight with you is going to help people in the industry right now because it's specific to what is going on in the market.
Yep. Well, I mean, I can certainly attest to having the mortgage background from your end certainly gives you that expertise because when we're mortgage guys or gals, we're dealing with real estate, legal. I mean, every single parameter we're essentially in the middle of quarterbacking it, right, with all the professionals. And I always say our line of work is we're more air traffic control than necessarily doing mortgages. I'm a firm believer, me, I'm always wearing my Got Mortgages stuff. But and you're always in your short sale savage. I love it. And I'm a firm believer in that. That was actually something we had I wrapped up. I don't know if you saw this really, really tough file yesterday. And it was, brutal. Picked it up from another lender. They had the client approved 670 conventional on a multi, made no sense. Client's credit score, we ended up grabbing it, flipping it FHA, needed the extra wriggle room with the DTI, got it done, got the house in. House needed a little bit of work, sent in a contractor, painted it in advance, got it painted. Seller was okay with it. Luckily, I had a good relationship with the seller's attorney in advance. Knew that if I said we can get the job done, we can get the job done. I just need a little bit of time. We closed it in less than 3 weeks. And we would have closed it even sooner as we normally do. But we had to get the house a little fixed up, right? Prior to the FHA appraisal, which we know to do in advance, right? We're not sending a client and then doing it thereafter. So this is what I got the Wikipedia or Merriam-Webster definition of a short sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a short sale is a transaction in which a lender or lenders agree to accept less than the current mortgage amount owed by the homeowner. Some cases, the difference is forgiven. Yeah, go figure, right? By the lender. And in others, the homeowner must make arrangements with the lender to settle the remainder of the debt. Would that be more or less an accurate definition, you would say?
That's pretty dead on balls accurate. Obviously the wording is nice. And
well, you know how I am, but yeah.
Well, I'm saying, the wording itself in theory is great, but actually doing it, physically doing it, it's not as easy as you think.
Sure.
So, yeah, look, if you owe, let's say, $500,000 on the house, and the house is only worth $400,000, ultimately, you would think that the lender would say, okay, we'll take $400,000. But what if there's private mortgage insurance that's in place? What if, there's a second lender on it that owed $50,000, and they won't settle? So there's a lot of things, the matrix that are in place. We do loan modifications too, and I see some of the loan modifications. We're actually, believe it or not, I had a conference call last week with one of the real estate agents that I work with in Jersey and Pennsylvania, and we actually told the homeowner, you're going to have to get a litigator attorney because they had a modification, and during the time frame or the guidelines in that modification, they gave it to them. They were going through it. They had already made their last payment in the trial period. They ran title and found that there was a lien on the property.
Yes.
Problem is, the lien was already paid, but they didn't send the release in. So they got booted out of the modification. Didn't know what to do, flipped it around, contacted a wholesale company, tried to sell the property. Wholesaler said, I can't do anything with it. Flipped it to my agent guy. We got involved in it. He had a sale date. We stopped the sale date twice. Pennsylvania, you can't stop.
Stop.
Yeah, it's very tough. But we got it stopped. Now they're getting ready to go for another sale date on the property. The house has been marketed. They overvalued this property to the tune of almost $140,000. So we're trying to say, hey, Mr. Judge, with a litigation attorney, we had a conference call last week we got off. The agent was like, "Holy shit!" Like and this guy's a broker. He's got 100
Yeah.
and some odd agents underneath him. He's like, "Dude, I'm always learning when I'm hanging with you." He goes, "You didn't have to bring me on that call, but I needed him on the call because I needed him to tell the litigation attorney what the timeline was, what the actual true value were." So the attorney had his secretary on. It was a whole big thing, but to get ready for litigation to go to court. Now, whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know. But at the end of the day, because of the type of loan that he's in, FHA, if you go, it's really 61 months. But if you
Yep.
go 60 months, you can't do a short sale on an FHA loan. But if you,
Interesting.
yeah,
I
but
never knew that.
I know. There you go. Now you learn. See, you learn something now.
I'm learning something.
But we were coming up to the 61 month on it. We were between that sweet spot. And we said, look, we want to do the deal, but you guys are being unrelentless with the value of the property. And they kept kicking us out of review. It was a complete shit show. Good news is I believe we're going to be able to stop the sale on the property based on the fact that the lender really was in bad faith and that they should have done ahead of time. Because, you had the guy make 2 mortgage payments and now all of a sudden you're pulling it back and saying, oh, no, yeah, you can't do that. So hopefully we'll get it worked out. We're going to make it that he does the modification, get things straight. Once that's done in the springtime, we'll flip it to a short sale again because then he'll be in.
Exactly.
Sometimes you got to do what listen. You got to play the game, unfortunately, with the lenders.
Yeah. Now, this kind of answers a question, right, that you were basically going over. So let's say it's on the flip side, right? A client owes, $400,000, and the house is worth $500,000. In that case, it's not a short sale, right? They're not buried in equity, right? So can an owner, two part of the questions, can an owner profit from a short sale, and how do bankruptcies in this situation or potential situation affect the possibility of doing a short sale?
Okay, so I actually have 2 transactions. That my wife she's a real estate agent, so she has one of the listings supposed to close next week. But the other transaction, similar situations in 13s, and they had equity in it, and they, initially they thought they were going to be able to work things out, but it didn't work out properly in the 13. One of them has about 153,000 in equity. The other one has no equity in it at all. So I shouldn't say no equity, but the margin is very thin. So, you build in transfer fees, you build in, there's a medical bill, you build in a real estate commission.
Sure.
The attorney still has to get paid whatever his filing fees were, which still in there. So there's a lot of things out there. So people say to me, Matt, can I profit from a sale of a property that's in bankruptcy? Depends if there's equity. If it's a short sale and you're in bankruptcy, depending on the bankruptcy that you go into, and mind you, I'm not a bankruptcy attorney. One of my attorneys told me I always have to say, I'm not a bankruptcy attorney. I say I'm not a bankruptcy attorney. I don't play one on TV. I'm not trying to portray one at all. This question is a loaded question because, if they have profit, can they profit from a short sale? No, that would be illegal. Can you inject equity back into a property by shorting some of the liens on the property? Yeah, of course, you could do that. I've done that. But the bankruptcy, depending on what you're in, like I get wholesalers now that drive me nuts because they're like, oh, I got a client, they're in bankruptcy, I want to flip the contract. I said, my guy, you want to commit fraud? Do it on your own time. I have no interest because now you're dealing with the bankruptcy attorney. The bankruptcy trustee. And now the trustee is really the one who holds the key or not, whether or not they're going to allow that property to be sold because, whether it received equity or not, you really have to go back to them and say, hey, look, we need this property to get released. Sometimes it's easier just to abandon the bankruptcy and move forward and hope that, they don't put up a sale date immediately and you can liquidate the property. I could go on for hours for this one.
I love it. So my take on that essentially is, one, it depends on the short sale, right? If it's chapter 13 or chapter 7, I guess. and 13 is usually the one where you're making payment plans in place, right? And then 7 is where you throw in the towel, for lack of
Yeah,
better
you look,
words.
everything gets liquidated.
Yeah.
The thing is that not
Um,
everybody could do the two different ones, and I really don't want to get locked into the bankruptcy aspect of it. But it's like, if you have a mortgage, right, and you're in the bankruptcy, then it's like, do you want to reaffirm your mortgage? Do you want to reaffirm your car payments? Do you want to just, dump off, bad debt that you can't get rid of? Like, so, I recommend, I have a couple bankruptcy attorneys, but I have, one that I normally use in the state of New Jersey because he understands. Let me just say this in passing. I did an event in 2019. When I did that event in 2019, right here in New Jersey, I had two attorneys, one from New Jersey, one from Massachusetts in the room. And I was doing business with both of them. I still do today. I still do business with them. The guy from Massachusetts said 50% of all bankruptcies filed, all in Massachusetts, 50% are filed incorrectly.
Sure.
In Jersey, 70 to 80%. That means 7 to 8 in New Jersey back in 2019 were being filed incorrect. That's scary.
And it's probably worse now post COVID. Yeah. That's interesting. I love that.
And people are filing bankruptcy for the wrong reason.
All right, now. Yeah, exactly. Now shifting the focus to a professional perspective, right?
Yeah.
If I'm a realtor or even a mortgage professional or title or attorney or whatever the case may be, how do you think, from your expertise, can one leverage short sales and foreclosures as a basis of income generating activities? Of course, we do it for the purposes of making home ownership possible and stuff like that.
Right.
But we're obviously in this business to, for income.
Right.
So what would you kind of say would be, I guess, your top 3-4 things in terms of how a real estate professional or mortgage professional can leverage short sales and foreclosures for income generating activities?
So obviously, one, you have to have a heart. You have to go in it with the idea of you trying to help somebody have a bad situation, right? So it's always you want to help the person first. If you can figure out how to separate, and some people can't, the people before the profit. If you can figure out how to help somebody and make money, and you can generate that into a real business and harness that energy, you're going to be successful. If
Sure.
you're a real estate, really anybody in real estate, right? Real estate professionals. I mean, I've had wild phone calls in 2024, all the way from, ministers, title companies, collection agencies. My latest is wholesale companies, real companies reaching out and saying, "Hey, Matt, saw you on social media, followed some of your stuff, checked you out a little bit, seemed like you're a good guy." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right." We're coming across properties that have no equity in it.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do with it? So right now, 2024 started off in January, mid-December. I mean, I got 6 short sales going on right now that are from wholesalers, and they're leveraging that with real estate agents. Why are they doing that? Because they're giving it to a real estate agent. Whatever, if they work something out, I don't want to know about it.
Sure.
But they're giving it to a real estate agent. Why are they doing that? Because now that real estate agent said, "Well, hold on a second. You're going to feed me short sales. So if I come across a property,
I'm going to feed it to you. Yeah.
I'm
One
gonna feed
hand
it
washes the other.
Right. Or maybe, and these guys that I work with, these wholesale companies, they physically buy. So if it's a scenario where they could buy a property and do whatever, they'll do a quick clean out, whatever they're going to do to it. Like, they have their business models, for me, are amazing. I also get phone calls from this one-off people that don't know what they're doing. And I was like, "Listen, you're in this area, call this guy, get on his team." And the owners laugh because they call me, "Yo, did you refer blah, blah, blah?" Like, "Yeah, you're a better lead source than a recruiting agency." The thing is that people don't know what they're doing. You got to crawl before you run. So I tell people something's better than nothing with that. Mortgage professionals love it. How many times have you spoken with someone who had a mortgage or a situation? You and I talked about one last week. You sent me the appraisal. I looked at it. I'm like, "Dude, this is a short sale." But the agent unwillingly wants to sell the property because they think that somebody's going to overpay for this property. the matrix on this property just does not make sense. And like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it.
Yeah.
Now, the real estate side, we have real estate agents that are now more than ever reaching out and saying, "Hey, Matt, how do I work with you? How do I get trained with you? How do I become one of your preferred real estate agents? Blah, 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 whatever." At the end of the day, like I have two real estate agents that said to me, "I know what I'm doing. I've gone to those local MLS companies. I've got the certificates. I'm board certified, whatever, foreclosure specialist."
Yeah, apparently there's a certificate for everything now.
Right.
I see.
Right. Like I should get a certificate. I'm married almost 25 years. Do I get a certificate for my wife for being a good husband? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I'm right there behind you, but yeah, I
mean,
agree.
how's that work? So, two listed properties at lower than 6%. And I'm saying to myself, and people that are following me right now, if it's a short sale, the bank will allow up to 6% paid out to real estate agents.
Yeah.
Which leads me to another thing, because agents right now are flipping out because they're like, "Oh my God, my commission's under attack. I'm not going to make what I used to make, or as a buyer agent, I'm not going to be able to make deals, make money." Well, the banks don't care. They're giving out 6%. At that point, it's subject to third-party approval. It's out of the seller's hands. But these agents listed the property with 4%, and they both said the same thing. "But I don't want the homeowner to be responsible for paying more than 4%. I'm like, "But they're not." "No, Matt, they are." And I'm like, "No, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, they're not, because the short selling bank is going to pay the real estate commission."
Yeah, they're going to leverage that side.
Yeah, they all that. So I just don't understand why people say to me that they know what they're doing when they don't. Like when somebody says to me they don't know.
Oh, trust me, I could.
I mean, you just told me just no. You didn't know about that FHA guideline with the short
No,
sale?
and I wrote it down, and that's good to know. So 60 months, 5 years. I wonder. It's funny. I wonder that requirement, because a lot of those requirements, right, have those 5-year restrictions with certain things, right, like the NJHFMA. You can't get out of it within 5 years. Things like that. I generally always knew that it was like with FHA, the only restrictions we had in place were like a client must move in within 60 days, right? Or a borrower had to live there for a minimum of 1 year, in order for them to be deemed owner occupied. But that's great to know, because with the short sales, we talked about derogatory credit seasoning, right? And knowing the differences between how long, if you had a bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sale, or anything of that nature, or even a pre-foreclosure, what the waiting period time frame is in order for you to actually be able to qualify. Conventional is always more stringent. FHA is a little bit more lax because you have HUD backing it up. Now, is an appraisal always required on a short sale? I'm going to imagine yes, just like a normal purchase, right? So we could assess the value of the home.
So that's a great idea. If it's a FDIC insured property, yes. But if it's like a private lender, if it's a hard money lender, something like that, maybe not. But yes, I would say 99.9999%, you got to have it. You got to have a baseline that you're working off of. Because if you owe $1 million and the house is only worth $500,000, then
you're underwater.
It is that's what the dollar amount is. So yeah,
got it. So usually, if it's essentially a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan or HUD insured loan on the secondary market, more than likely you're going to need to have an appraisal conducted. Now, 100%. Who pays for that? Well, does the buyer or does the bank?
So the bank is going to come out. They're going to do an evaluation on the property. So, and that's that is subject to third party approval, right? So because of that, it's the bank is paying for somebody to come out. That's a third party organization that's going to be subjective, hopefully, and say whatever they think the value of the property is.
Yeah.
Now, the homeowner ultimately pays for it because they tack it on to additional fees, costs, whatever it is, like when it goes, for the foreclosure process, like securement fees, appraisal fees, whatever nonsense fees, going on a boat trip fee, whatever it is. It's all listed on there. But ultimately ultimately the buyer is going to have to get an appraisal done on the property, obviously by their lender, to go out there and find out, what the value of the property is. So by the end of it, it'd be a CMA. They could be 2-3 appraisals for the first or second. Maybe the buyer, the person who's buying the property. It could be all different evaluations that could be done on the property. And sometimes you have to fight it because the value is not there. And that's
Yeah, it's not there. I agree.
an appraiser that's 6 hours away. It makes no sense.
I'm dealing with so with our, obviously, as the branch, we have the control with certain AMCs and relationships with appraisers. But I'm dealing with one right now, actually in Florida. It's a cash out refi, right in Miami, right in the heart of South Beach.
Nice.
And the we're doing a cash out. The house is paid off entirely. We're pulling out 80 loan to value, and the appraiser undershoots the appraisal by like 120 grand than what we expected. So we're looking at, of course, we get the appraisal report. All of the comps used were non-renovated properties, and this is like full blown to the gills, floors and this and walls and all the whole shebang. So what do I do as the lender? Go online. We have a lot of trusted partners that we use AI with to be able to pull up comps and pull up CMAs, and it's just we get specifically like AVMs from the appraisal companies themselves. Ran the comps, pulled up the ones, pulled up all 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom properties that were newly renovated. Found that, boom, put in the request, and now we're waiting on the recertification of value. So I'm a firm believer, because the refis are that raw, quote unquote, what the actual value of the home is, right? Purchases, these appraisers, I mean, listen, great guys, doing it for a profession, but they're gals, they're not looking at the appraisal, the actual thing. They're looking at the contract price. The price is $625. They're appraising the house at $625. And it's crazy because I'll have some that's like, oh, we're getting the house for $213, and the house appraises for $213, and I'm like, interesting. I wonder if there was a correlation there. But yep. So moving on, next question: how late in the pre-foreclosure process can one start a potential short sale?
That's a great question. We're talking about New Jersey right now.
Yeah, Jersey.
New Jersey is a different beast than most states. So, I mean, you can stop the sale of a property up to the sale date. And then once you get that paperwork, you actually submit it to the bank and say, hey, we've got time now to do the short sale on the property. Problem is, it's 37 days before an active sale date that they want to actually do something. So let's say somebody comes to me and says, hey, Matt, I got a property. I got a sale date in 37 days. And I've already used my 2 adjournments in the state of New Jersey.
Yep.
Are you willing to go file an urgent motion in the court? I don't know. Are you willing to, hire a litigator? I don't know. You're going to file bankruptcy? I don't know. What is it that you're going to do that's going to be different or an exception that a judge is going to want to hold off on doing anything with that property? If you haven't paid your mortgage in 5 years, and all of a sudden it's the last hour, and you're like, oh, I need more time, the judge can be like, goodbye. So Jersey changed in late 2019. It used to be where you would get two adjournments, 2 weeks each. Now they've upped it to 2 months. So you get 1 month in the second month. It's like 28 days in an adjournment. But they also gave the bank 2 adjournments. They don't want properties hanging around any longer. I do know in New York that they are pushing transactions faster. So the homeowner files bankruptcy, unless it's a real reason why somebody's filing bankruptcy, they're pushing them out. And even if you do file bankruptcy, like you're like, oh, I'm good for at least a year. I filed bankruptcy. Really? You're really good for a year? You sure about that? Let me show you some of these case studies where 45 days later, the property was pulled out of bankruptcy. Has your attorney even talked to you about the possibility of making it that if you try to file bankruptcy again, you won't have any bankruptcy protection? Oh, no, he said he's got me covered, whatever it is. like, so there's so many different variables that are in there that I
Yep.
like to push people towards people who have credibility and tell people the reasoning or what's the reasoning behind filing the bankruptcy. Let me tell you, the judges, they're not dumb. If they see it as a play, they'll be like, nah, whatever. And the trustee will push it out, and then they'll have no bankruptcy protection. And then it ends up being, a total shit show. So, short version of the long story, if they have protection and they haven't used their adjournments, I mean, we could stop it the day of if we have to, but really you need time to file the paperwork, file, the bankruptcy proceedings, whatever it is. And depending, where it is in New Jersey and what day it is, everything varies. So
Yep.
you really need at least a minimum of 24 hours for everybody's heads not to blow off if you're going to use the bankruptcy side. If not, financial options before it's too late. Don't wait. Please just don't wait to the end and contact me and say, because I hear this all the time. I wish I knew you 30 days ago. I wish I knew you 6 months ago. Or if I knew you last week, I wouldn't have filed bankruptcy. I'm already getting the notices from my creditors. I mean, I don't know.
No. Listen, I mean, I could say on so many rounds, even on our end, how many times I can hear somebody saying, "Oh, I wish I knew you at this time or that time," and especially when, like I shared with you earlier on the call, I'm usually the guy that's getting called after the fact, right? And then you're trying to, you end up saving the deal, but you're stuck, having to pull through things. I think we kind of answered this questions already.
Yeah.
Will banks allow a short sale when the owner has some or good amount of equity? It's essentially on a case by case basis, but essentially, if they have equity, it's obviously not a short sale, right?
Right.
And then if the equity is not there, then that's essentially the definition of a short sale.
Right.
Now, what common reasons are given by lenders like ourselves, right, that deny a short sale? What would be you think? I don't know. I would say your top 3 or 4 reasons as to why a short sale would be denied.
So I will say this from experience, and I have seen this a lot, more times I care to remember, where
Sure.
we'll reach out, we'll have authorization, the bank will be kind of like wishy-washy with us, and one of the things I ask for is the platform notes. And when I say platform notes, then they kind of know that I know what I'm talking about. That's what the
Sure.
bank. That's how they reference. It's the black, the platform notes, and those are the notes that actually have all the meat and potatoes. There's regular notes, whatever it is, but then what are the platform notes? And they click the screen, and then they go in there and they take a look, and the file might be flagged. I have relationships where I can ask, listen, I know you can't go into that screen because if you go into it, you're really not authorized, and then the file gets triggered, and then they ask you,
Why'd you go in there? Yeah.
was this loss money? Why did you go in that screen? So looking at what you see, can you tell me why you think this transaction didn't go through? And if you're able to get what they call, which is a backdoor number or the bat phone, and those calls aren't recorded, they might say, "Hey, I can't hear you, static. I'll call you back. Can I reach out?" Blah blah blah, whatever. And they tell me what the notes are, and it says files flagged. The real estate agent put the property in the wrong MLS.
Yep.
Real estate agent, no photos except the outside photo of the property. We have an exterior evaluation of the home, and that picture that is posted on the MLS is from 10 years ago. So any bullshit thing that you could think of, criminal wise, that's what these people are doing. That is a quick way to get blackballed from a bank where they will basically flag the file. You will drive the homeowner into foreclosure and you will get blacklisted. I know people personally that don't know that I know this, that, are not taken serious in some of the banking industry with some of the lenders because of the nonsense shenanigans that they tried to pull. So I tell people, is it really worth making $30,000 to pull shenanigans when, just take your real estate commission and make, $15,000? You know what I mean? It's like it's not worth doing the stuff. And believe me, I get people that reach out to me. Sometimes I'm like, is this guy calling me from the FBI? Like, is he trying to entrap me? Does he think I'm a complete moron? You know, so it really depends. Does it meet the criteria? They'll deny it if it doesn't meet the criteria, meaning there's a certain percentage that they have to net. And if they can't net that, then there's no deal. And they'll say,
Yeah.
listen, go find another buyer. Then you don't do it. And if they say, let's say a house is listed for $250,000, and the bank says you got to list it to 350, but it's 250. That's what the market is. And they look and they go, wait a second, this house is worth like $400,000. Why is this guy listed at 250? You're going to tell me that's fair market value? Then they say, submit me some. I want you to send me a CMA report, and I want you to justify that dollar amount that you put in the MLS.
Exactly.
Flagged. So there's a million reasons why a file can get flagged. I will say, after doing this for so long, when my company name pops up, or my name or my lead negotiator pops up in these files, they kind of tell us everything because we have authorization. So they'll give us, hey, look, this is what happened, whatever. The people qualified for, a short sale, but because of this, we had to deny it. So just do things the right way. That's what I say.
I love it. No, I love it. I think it's I know it's so difficult to truly hit every single point because there's so many different variables, right? Same thing with mortgages in terms of reasons for denials or approvals. And then I guess the last question, what are my tax consequences when you go through a short sale, and will a short sale affect my credit?
Short sale will affect your credit. Foreclosure will affect your credit even more. So let's break it down. Taxes. You're exempt to a certain amount. I don't know what that dollar amount is. I am not a CPA. I'm not a licensed CPA, and I don't play one on TV. So they actually have to ask their accountant or CPA, look, if I sell this property for X and I'm underwater, can I get a credit? Can I benefit from, whatever it is? Really what the term is called from the tax side of it, the real question is, can they show insolvency? And if they can show insolvency, they're good. As far as the credit side of it, look, I have people, I was just on a podcast today, and the guy was pretty hard on me and the two guys. I'm doing an event in Florida. And he's like, well, if there's upside down in the property, what's the benefit for them to do it? If the house goes to foreclosure, let's say you owe 500 and the house sells for 200, you could be liable for 200.
You're liable 300. Yeah.
Yeah, $300,000, whatever it is. Then you got to file bankruptcy. Well, if they only allow them $2,500, dude, I'd rather take $2,500 and leave in the market that we're in right now. Let's face it. If you don't have a high credit score and you want to rent, I don't know any landlords that are willing to take somebody with cheap. So when someone says to me, I'm going to let the house go to foreclosure, that's strike one. That's a red flag.
Yeah.
You let your credit cards go. You got your car repossession. That's strike two, red flag. Now you're letting your property go. That's strike three, major red flag. And then 4 is file bankruptcy. That was going to take you as a tenant. Would you want to rent to somebody that did all that? What is the reasoning behind it? Oh, my bank didn't listen to me. Or, something happened financially, whatever it is. And then, they look at your financial snapshot. They look at your credit report. You banked out all your credit cards. You did this, you did that. It says that you work for X, Y, and Z company. I'm looking at your credit application. You make $250,000 a year. Something doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're overextended.
Yeah, so can it affect your credit? Absolutely. You could drop anywhere from, 60 to 150 points on your credit report. But foreclosure should never be an option.
Yeah, you'll get demolished. No, I agree. I think it also sets the expectations too, wrapping up, in regards to understanding for a client truly what the options are, right?
Yeah.
Because we know from our standpoint is the foreclosure proceeding starts after 120 days. So if you haven't made your mortgage payment after 120 days, that's likely when the foreclosure proceeding is allowed to start, and
With
then they'll initiate the acceleration clause.
can I add,
Um,
can I add one thing?
yes, of
And
course.
this is important. I've been talking about this all day. And I actually had a group of individuals, about 40, 50 people, 46 to be exact, in this group. And it was kind of like a mastermind thing that I was in today. And we're all talking. And I said, let me ask you guys a question. With the moratorium, the people that jumped out of the moratorium, did they understand what the repercussions were by getting out of the moratorium and see, you already know, walking away from it? And they're like, no, everything was fine. As long as they could walk away from it, they could stay in it, they could do whatever, as long as everything was paid up. And I said, well, what about the people that were in the forbearances during the moratorium and said, hey, I don't need this forbearance anymore. And let's say you're in the month 4, right? And you pay it off. So month 4, you pay 4 months back, whatever it is. That mortgage company had the right to go back, since you pulled out, to go to your credit report and bang it out and say, now you were late 3 months, even 4 months on your credit. Everybody was like, on the Zoom. Nobody talked about that stuff. I did a forbearance on my property for 2 reasons. One, we had a couple of lean months because of what's going on with COVID, but I also wanted to see, what are the terms? What are the conditions? So you know what I did? Let's say my payment's $3,000 a month, $1,500 a month, $1,000 a month. By the time that forbearance was coming to the end, I only owed really one payment. I was current. But the people that weren't current, that really utilized that as a bad boy and girl, bad boy, bad girl, because now they took that money, went on vacations. They took that money, put a down payment on a
Yeah.
condo in Florida, or whatever the hell they did. And now their interest rates that were 3.5%, 4%, now they're going into loan modifications at 7%. You know what? They can't afford that house anymore. So now, guess what? That is a lead for a real estate agent. That's a lead for a real estate attorney. That's a lead for a mortgage guy. Why? Because whoever's going to buy that house next, they're going to need a mortgage professional to write a mortgage for whoever's going to buy it. Open house, whatever, virtual, whatever the hell you guys are going to do with it. So there's so many different ways to make money in this industry, more now than ever in 2024, and people aren't doing it. Drives me nuts.
Yeah, I think it does fall back on education and understanding the options that are available. And I'm a firm believer in that. And all the knowledge that you shared, within the last 45 minutes or so clearly dictates that, where we understood certain things where we needed to pivot, right? Or if you're dealing with a consumer and it checks off this box, that box, that box, we already know what the course of action is going to be based on recommendations. I truly don't sometimes see that by many professionals. I think it's more of just short sighted as opposed to long term, which has truly shown over the last 2 years, right, with the number of professionals exiting the business.
Yeah.
You brought an interesting point, and I'll leave us at this, was talking about the forbearances and the deferments. A lot of people forget when they're selling their house that there were those 6 months, 7 months where they did not pay. And HUD with FHA has to file a lien to the property. They actually file a separate lien to the property. And sometimes that thing is delayed. Sometimes they file it quickly, sometimes they don't. And I had one instance I know with a title company where the borrower did not even, the sellers thought they were going to be receiving more. And then they wanted to change the purchase price, which we all know you're on a contract, my friend. You should have done your diligence in advance before doing that. But that is a very interesting point in terms of that. I know that when they were going in deferment of forbearances, you had the opportunity between both, where defer it, you pushed it, and then it would put to the back of the loan. And FHA was never allowed. You were never allowed to do that in the back of the loan. If you deferred, if you deferred 3 payments, your 4th month, you had to pay that back payments to get current, or you go into a loan mod. Conventional always had a little bit of the flexibility because of the private funding in place. But good stuff, man. Any last words before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, look, if somebody wants to contact me, obviously my information is on the screen. It's Matthew Merenoff, my full name, and just put .com after it. All my contact information pop up. And if you're really feeling like you want to learn more about what I'm doing, I'm actually putting on an event in Florida at the end of February, February 28th and 29th, and March 1st, which I'm really excited about, Clearwater, Florida. That event's called preforprofits.com. But if you need the information, obviously you can reach out. I'm not here really to push the event side of it, more to educate people.
I love it. Well, I appreciate your time, Matt, as always. Thanks for jumping on. Look forward to having you on in the future. Thanks, man.
I don't know until you get a restraining order.